In this video, I'm going to show you how I would scale a coaching business from 5K to 20K in probably around 30 to 45 days. And no, it's not by what you think. I'm not going to throw random hustle tactics at you or any shiny objects or try and sell you on a new opportunity. I'm just going to show you how I would go about thinking about it, identifying the current situation, identifying what needs to be true to get to 20K per month, and basically just how to think and solve the problem. So let's dive in. So first, you need to get out of that coach mindset and you need to actually start thinking like an operator, like a real business owner, okay? So most coaches think that they just need more content, send more DMs, test more ads, without any actual data-driven reasoning behind the actions that they decide to make. So this leads to burnout, frustration, because they don't actually know if this is the key that they need to scale, right? They're just watching all this free content online, and just sort of throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it sticks, with no real deep understanding of what their business actually needs. So not only this, but they fall victim time and time again to shiny object syndrome, which creates, an average across all areas type of focus. Because instead of you just doubling down on what you know works, you're, absorbing all these different things, trying different things, and your focus is all over the place. So you don't get that compounding effect that's required to actually grow the business. So before you scale anything in your business, what you need is visibility and clarity. So visibility is, knowing the baseline metrics and conversion rates that are a result of the inputs that you're actually doing now. Clarity is understanding which of the areas are holding you back. So everyone has different skills, strengths, and weaknesses. So your job is basically to acknowledge that and identify them. That's step one, right? Because there's going to be so many different businesses at 5K per month. Yours could be completely different to someone else's. There isn't a one size fits all cookie cutter way to scale, right? You have to figure out what your current situation looks like and what your strengths and weaknesses are. So your business is just a machine with internal systems. So what I mean by that is, the most high level and simple way of thinking about this is your coaching business is basically just a value exchange. So you provide value on the front end in exchange for attention, and that attention needs to be nurtured for a certain amount of time before they end up paying you as a client. And then you've got the back end value engine as well. So essentially you've got your front end and your back end value engine. This is how your business operates. You get clients in, then you fulfill on the surface that you sell. So I don't care how sophisticated your current operations are within your business, but these three elements will always exist, and are what makes up each system. So you've got the inputs, which is like the manual actions that run your business, what you're doing to keep things moving. Then you've got the processes, which is the way they're being done, and then the outputs, which are the first to generate as a result. Okay, so you're putting in the inputs, you're doing it in a specific way, and then the outputs is what you get as a result of that, which isn't always an immediate return. So each system, whether it's inside the front end value engine or inside the back end value engine, typically, comes along with some kind of KPI, key performance indicator. And this helps you define, is this actually working or is it not? So whether it's, a number or a conversion rate or just an outcome that you're expecting, but usually there's some kind of like metric of success, because if something's not working, you're not just going to keep doing it forever, right? That is the definition of insanity. So whether it's like data driven or it's a feeling, there's always, a metric of success somewhere there. Um, but this, with this comes with the iteration element of a system. So over time, you cut what doesn't work and you double down on what does. Unless you're someone who doesn't understand that concept yet, and you're still in the early stages of running a business and you're just, you're doing what you think needs to be done, but you're not really quite sure what to focus on. Um, So this is how my client Cody went from 1K to 45K followers in 120 days, because we basically carefully engineered like a content testing system that we implemented that allows us to identify what the market resonates with most. And then all of a sudden, after a while, right, you've tested a certain amount of things, you get this surge of views and followers, and then you double down on that one thing, and it creates this massive wave. And it's your job basically just to ride that wave. But if you don't double down on what works, then the wave will pass. You'll probably call it luck. You'll not even realize that a wave happened and what to do about it. Instead of actually grabbing the opportunity and running with it. So the problem is a lot of coaches feel like they know what to do, because of, what they've seen online, but because they don't truly understand the system and how to properly iterate over time, they get stuck without actually knowing what the bottlenecks are and how to fix them. So here's kind of like the hierarchy of bottlenecks inside of an online fitness coaching business. A very common issue I see with clients who come on board for the first time is they're thinking way too far ahead of the real bottleneck that's actually in front of them. So, someone might be not getting views on their videos, really struggling to get followers, but they think their offer is the problem. So they keep changing their niche, they keep changing their offer, even though people don't really know your offer until the sales call. So it's like, that's not the bottleneck. What actually is the bottleneck is your content, because it's not getting views and you're not getting followers. If you fix that bottleneck, then all of a sudden you'd have the right people in your audience to sell to. That's then when the offer would be, more important at that time. So first you need to identify, then you need to simplify, and then finally you need radical urgency to attack the bottleneck until it's fixed. All your focus needs to be on that one thing if you want to get over it as quickly as possible. So nothing else matters. And as long as your focus is split like 10 different ways, you're never really going to eliminate the real bottleneck, which is, 80 to 90% of the reason why you're stuck. And here's typical how I identify, where we're at. And I always start with like top of funnel. So, I mean, am I actually putting in the work and being consistent? If you are, then it's not a bottleneck. You move on. If you're not, then that is the bottleneck. That's literally what's holding you back. So, let's just be honest here, not thinking about content, not planning, not saving ideas, actually putting in the reps and putting things out there online. So publishing, speaking, starting conversations, actually following through with stuff, not just sitting planning all the time. So if you're inconsistent, nothing else matters, because everything is a result of that. So you can have the best vehicle in the world, but that will get you to the destination in the most efficient way. But if you're not willing to drive it to the destination, then nothing will happen. So that's why people who work really hard, but what they're doing might not be completely optimized, tend to get results anyway, just because of sheer volume, right? Volume negates luck. However, if you're putting in a fucking shit ton of work and you're in the right vehicle as well, that is literally a recipe for like success. You can't possibly fail if you've got those two things. So the fix is basically lock in your non-negotiables. Like, what are the things that are actually going to move the needle? Then you can focus on the minor details and the iteration after you've nailed consistency. Because you need consistency before you can scale anything, right? Or else the engine isn't even running in the first place. The next one is like, okay, I'm being consistent, I'm putting out content. Is my content actually getting views though? If it is, then you can ignore this and move down. If that's not getting views, then it's an attention problem. So, this doesn't mean you need more cringy TikTok dances, or you need to go viral, or you need to post more tips and tricks. It usually means you're playing it too safe online, you're being too generic, you're being too agreeable. Your videos are not standing out from the crowd. Your hooks probably suck as well, right? Because hooks are like 80% of why videos tend to do well. And probably the video topics as well. You've just not tested enough things. You've not got good enough at hooks. You're maybe a little bit reserved online. Um, so the markets, reward conviction, not being like correct. So if your content doesn't provoke, strong agreement or like disagreement, then it's not going to spread as much as it could do. So you need stronger opinions, clearer stances, higher emotional contrast, test more topics, and master the art of capturing attention within the first 3 seconds, right? You're in competition for people's attention. So if you're boring right from the get-go, people are just going to keep scrolling. They're subconsciously testing every bit of content, and they're making decisions without even realizing it about whether they want to watch that video or not. So the next one is, am I getting a consistent stream of new followers? Okay, so let's say you've got views now, but you're not getting followers. So if you're not getting followers, then this is more like a relevance problem. So you're being seen, but you're not being remembered. There's no emotional trigger happening that make people want to then follow you, right? You're probably being too surface level. You're posting too many like tips and tricks. You're not really showing your true personality. So, if your content is too informational, not like identity shaping, like they don't feel like, oh fuck, this guy's like really speaking to my soul, like he really gets me. You just got to go, you've got to think deeper. You got to go deeper. Like in 2026, especially like 10 years ago, yeah, you could post tips and tricks. You could just show off your physique and yeah, you would get followers, but not now. Because of the amount of competition, people really want to resonate with people online. And then that's basically why they follow you. So, you might be being helpful, but not distinctive. People agree, but they don't actually align with you. So yeah, followers come when basically you speak their language. They feel like, damn, this guy gets me. Not, oh, that was kind of useful. So you need more world view, less tips. Uh, you know, more like, this is how I see the world, more opinions, as opposed to here's what to do, right? It's kind of boring now. People have ChatGPT, they have Google. If they just want a few tips, that's not really why they're on Instagram. Um, so you need to trigger emotions, shift beliefs, and like share more of your authority. And when you position your profile as a coach, but what you post feels more like influencer, instantly that's a misalignment. So, coaches are leaders by nature, so you need to act like one. Now, am I consistently having positive conversations with people? If no, then it's kind of like an intent problem. Your content probably entertains, but it's not inviting, it's not attracting the right people who want to engage in sales conversations with you. You might be positioning yourself too much as an influencer, like what I just said, not as a coach, not as a business. Because if it's very clear when someone clicks on your profile, like what you do and who you help, then people really are kind of following for that reason. If you're positioned as an influencer, people are just going to follow you more for the entertainment value as opposed to, maybe possibly giving you money further down the line. So another thing is your content's probably speaking to too many people as well. So then you get this big variety of people coming into your audience and most of them are not even a good fit for your program. So that's why it's a huge headache actually, like going viral. Because if you go viral, especially from a video that's not really related to your coaching program, then dare I say it, you're a little bit screwed because now you've got all these people that you have to filter through in the DMs, and it's just it's more of a headache than it's worth, in my opinion. I would much prefer like a smaller niche down audience where like every new follower is a potential client. That's how I operate. I only have like 2.2K followers, but every time someone follows me who is a fitness coach, I know it's a sales conversation waiting to happen. So it's just so much easier to run your business like that. Like you don't need a big following to make good money. It's just a pain in the ass, to be honest. People think, like you need to go viral, you need to have like 100K followers, but it's not true. Actually, when you get above like 1 to 2K followers, the social proof element of having that amount of followers takes you further enough away from, oh, you look like a new account, um, gives you enough authority to then move forward. The difference between like 2K and 10K followers, it's actually not that big of a deal. So another thing is maybe you're not utilizing call to actions properly. Um, so people do not have a clear path to follow when you're providing value and a clear next step. Um, so, I mean, the conversation is really the bridge between attention and revenue when it comes to online coaching. So if you're not having conversations, then it's a signal that, you're not using this attention in the right way to direct people further down your funnel, which is your goal. And your content should be, revolve around that goal. Obviously, you've got your top of funnel content, which is literally just to attract the right people. But then when people are already in your audience, there's more content required that play its own role to nurture those people and to generate sales opportunities. So you need to create a clear path for people to follow. You need to audit your content. Are you speaking to too many people? Are you resonating with just one person? Or are you just trying to please everyone? Because then, as the saying goes, if you try and please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Is it clear who your profile is actually aimed at, or is it more just like a general personal brand or influencer account? What you actually want to happen in your business has to align in your content and your profile. Everything has to align, because if not, it's going to create confusion for the viewers, for your followers, which is not good, because that creates friction between them taking action. Am I booking sales calls? So if no, then there's a decision friction problem. It's kind of relating to this. If people are not wanting to jump on sales calls with you, then there's a problem with your audience. There's a problem with your content. So, people are interested but stuck. So usually, the path forward isn't obvious, or there's too many options. Like when people have a website with so many options, that's like the worst possible mistake you can make, in my opinion. They don't know if this is for them, and this is rarely solved by, pushing harder. So before a call is even offered to anyone, you have to have a stronger ecosystem for qualifying people and getting people into the audience, into conversations. Um, you can do this through, long form content as well, which is great, which basically just does all the pre-selling for you. A lot of fitness coaches are still not using long form content. The next one is, am I consistently closing new clients? Now, this is obviously a sales thing. It's usually not a confidence issue, though. People think that they have to be good at handling objections and be really good at sales. Actually, 80% of the heavy lifting comes before the call, to be honest. So, if you're not closing consistently, then maybe your offer is a bit too generic. Maybe it's a bit too broad. So people are like, he's just, selling the same as everyone else. So there's no urgency for me to buy here. It doesn't feel like it's for me. He's just working with too many different people. So that kind of leads us on to your positioning as a whole, your brand. There's no positioning, there's no competitive edge, nothing that puts you above the rest, because you're operating too much like a sheep, just like everyone else, just offering the same things, and you haven't doubled down on one niche or one kind of person who you're best suited to serve. You think that if you narrow the pool of potential clients that you're going to make less sales, but actually, usually the opposite is true, where the broader you go in this day and age, the harder it is to actually get someone to pay you money. And if you do, then you're competing on pricing and things like that. You're just a commodity. So it's kind of an uphill battle, really. If you create your own little niche, a one-of-one offer that people can't get anywhere else, and you get the right person on the call, it's so damn easy to sell that offer to them, because likely most of the time it's nothing they've ever seen before. So sales really should feel just more like a confirmation that they're in the right place. You shouldn't have to persuade anyone. If you're explaining, justifying, or chasing people, then you've kind of fucked up in the ecosystem before the call. So I always say sell like a doctor, right? Do they if they don't need the diagnosis that you prescribe, then your pre-qualification and nurturing processes and content is broken because they shouldn't even be on the call in the first place. In fact, when people get on the call with, me and my clients, the only objection that comes up is money because we know that everyone on the call is in the right place. This is exactly what they need and it is designed for them. So they all say that they want it. It's really just down to money, which is kind of out of your control. But before I did this, like ages ago when I used to be an online coach, um, people would come out with fucking all sorts of different objections that were just stupid. They would just be like weird and uncomfortable, like they would want to just get off the call. And that's just a clear indication that, what you've done before the call is just clearly causing too much confusion, misalignment. You just end up wasting your time on the calls. And then coaches will blame that on their sales skills being bad. And it's just not true. You don't even need to be good at sales, in my opinion, if you position everything else in the right way. So the fix is, refine the offer. Kind of like what I said at the start of the video. Someone who wasn't getting views was thinking too much about the offer. The offer really is irrelevant at that stage. The offer becomes more important on the sales call because that's literally what you're presenting to them. So you need to sharpen the transformation. You need to narrow down on one outcome. If you're too process heavy, like you're just focusing too much on, I'll give you a training plan, a nutrition plan, check-ins. Guess what? Everyone sells that. That's not an offer. That's just that's just the standard, unfortunately. So you need to sharpen the transformation and make it specific, make it like quantifiable, so that they feel like they're paying for that transformation. They're not just paying for a monthly coaching retainer indefinitely. And you need to increase the certainty before the call through your content. Things like long form content. You're harvesting watch time there, because if someone watches you for half an hour as opposed to like a few reels, they're going to have way more certainty, trust. They're going to be way more familiar with you. And if they're on a call with you, it means they should be there because they've gathered enough information before the call. The call isn't to provide them all the information, because then they're going to need to think about it. You need to give them everything that they need to know before the call, so that when they get on the call, it's literally just it's more of an enrollment call, to be honest. And I've got clients closing, at 65% close rate on 3K packages. One even went on like a 8-call close streak, right? Because everything we did before did all the heavy lifting. He was literally just enrolling people. And that's how I like to do sales. I'm not a natural salesman or anything like that. I just prefer to be clever about it and design things in a way that makes sales calls really easy. The next one is like, do I actually have capacity to take on new clients? Maybe you're doing really well already, or maybe you're charging low ticket and you've got a ton of clients and your capacity is getting fucked and you're not even making the money that you should be. So your pricing is just screwed, but you've already taken on all these clients. So it's like, okay, what do you do now? You've got no leverage to work with to scale. So you end up burnt out, getting people worse results, slower progress, because you've maxed out, your capacity for delivery. So what you really need to do is buy back your time. I think working with less clients for a more premium price, not only does it give you more leverage and you can focus on the clients more, get them better results, but the clients are more emotionally bought in, and it's just a win-win situation. I don't understand coaches who are still trying to sell coaching for like, $200 a month. Like, come on, Like, what you doing? It's it's just completely unnecessary. And the ones that say they're just trying to be affordable, like that's just the biggest cope I've ever heard. Uh, so bump your prices up, make your service better, work with less people, make more impact, and everything will be good. Everyone's winning. You'll be able to scale your business. Or else, you're going to be working with 50, 60 clients, not really making that much money per month and wondering, okay, how the fuck do I increase my capacity now? It's not a good position to be in. So don't even let yourself get there in the first place. So the rule that changes everything, right, is that you fix one bottleneck at a time. Just one. Figure out what your biggest bottleneck is right now. Okay? Not multiple things, not sales and fulfillment, not branding, not ads, not content and ads. One constraint, the thing that's holding you back the most from scale, and relentlessly focus on that with radical urgency and just fucking attack it, right? Attack it until it's fixed. Then you open the runway to scale your business. So anything that really isn't that important, pause it. Who cares? Focus on one thing at a time. You'll make way more progress like that. So this works fast because most coaches plateau because they work on the symptoms, not the root cause. Pardon me. And they copy surface level tactics and they avoid hard diagnosis. Most people don't even track their data, for God's sake. So they don't have a clue what's going on. They're just posting content and hoping for the best. Each to their own. But when you identify the true bottleneck, you attack it until it isn't a bottleneck anymore. Then you move down the funnel and you attack the next one, and you do it one thing at a time. And then all of a sudden, scale becomes really predictable. Not easy, but it becomes very clear, and you know what to do one step at a time because you're always on top of what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, and you're relentlessly attacking that bottleneck at all times. So to summarize, if you want to scale from 5 to 20K per month, which in the grand scheme of things is not really a big deal, and most of the time it's actually just a few tweaks and focusing on the right things. So instead of, asking what should I do next, you can start asking where is the constraint in my system right now? And your business is not broken, it's just bottlenecked, which bottlenecks in businesses, you're going to have them at every stage of business at all times, but it's your job to get good at identifying what that is and actually putting a plan of attack into action and rallying together all your resources, all your energy, all your focus into that one thing until it's no longer a bottleneck. So you don't need more motivation. You don't need more ideas. You don't need more shiny objects. You don't need more deep work hours. You need focus on one thing. So the process is always the same. Identify what it is, strip everything else away, remove complexity, apply force in that one direction as much as possible, fix it completely, then move down the funnel. Okay. No hacks, no hustle culture, no copying what everyone else does. Everyone's business is different. All right. So by you just assuming what's going on in someone else's business because of what they're doing, that is really the wrong way of going about it. So this is how you actually operate like a proper business owner, not a coach. And this is how you engineer real growth. If you haven't subscribed already, give me a subscribe. If you want to book a roadmap call where we map out everything in your business, find the real bottlenecks, then feel free to click the link in the description. But until next time, see you later, guys.